Hi, I'm Laurel.
I'm Wolf.
I'm Colin.
And I'm Drew.
And we're the Gamesmiths, and we just got done playing Via. And I want to give you a little feedback about our feelings about the game.
So first of all, I think we all had fun. I think you all saw we were all pretty engaged and enjoying ourselves and
Yelling at
got
each other.
spirited.
Right. Yeah,
we got spirited. We wanted to win.
So I definitely
very
think we got all into the spirit of the game. I think we have fun. I think you have a very solid concept here. I think there's definitely like a solid fun foundation of the game, and I think we all enjoyed our first playthrough, and we all figured it out well enough. The rules were pretty clear. A couple of things specifically on the rules is I would look at or a couple things weren't specified. Number one was what happens if we run out of tiles. Didn't happen,
Yeah.
but it might. And just having those things in there is nice to know. Do we reshuffle? Do we just call the game at that point? Just to throw a line in there about that. And then we also weren't sure about on when Laurel was scouting and hit the lose one, if that should have ended her turn right there, or if she could have used the kind of scout's ability to, scout seems like it checks things out before, and so if it could dodge that. So if we played it wrong, or anything we played wrong.
Yeah. Well, and we ended up interpreting scout as like basically draw 3, discard at the end of turn unless you would discard something that hurts you.
Yeah, do you draw 3 and then discard something,
so
or do you have to discard?
I think we made the right call. We're just not 100% sure. So I guess look at tightening up the rules as written on scouts.
Oh, that was the other thing is it said in the rules, the one thing that needed a little clarifying was it does say at one point you're never allowed to have more than 6 cards in your hand at any time. Or I'm sorry, never allowed to have more than 5 cards in your hand at any time. But then your explanation of the rules was draw your, start with 5, draw number 6, and if at the end of your turn you haven't played number 6, then discard it. So that was a kind of a conflicting rule. You could read it as one way when you're scouting, if you already have 5. If you're never allowed more than 5 in your hand, then you have to, you pretty much
discard
have to
2 out of your hand
those
first.
figure
and
out
then
something
draw.
else. But just wasn't clear. There was one time that said never more than 5, and then there was another time that implied, you're going to have 6 at times, and that's fine. So I cleaned that up a little bit. Drew?
Well, I want to say that I had a lot of fun just slapping down tokens and comboing off, and I also I loved this prototype board for everyone. Like everyone gets their own board. It's very engaging. It's easy to kind of grok what's going on this board when it first starts. And so I like the simple way that is set out. One thing that I think I mentioned a couple times on the video was how at least for certain people I got this definitely in the first game and a little bit in the second game of just like a very explosive first turn and then just not drawing enough cards to come close to replacing that. So it's this big burst of momentum, and then I felt like I was promised more momentum by that first turn, and it didn't follow through. So well, I have something else. You can tell us what you think about the scout, and then I'll tell you what I think about the scout.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, I already mentioned during the game, we had some feedback in the game, so if you're watching this second, I'd go back and watch, because we had just some candid questions and stuff that did make sense sometimes, but the scout to me just seemed like very overpowered, and I expressed that during the game that wow, it's so powerful compared to everything. There's things like destroy that takes 4 different cards, potentially 5 if you get it defended against. Mm-hmm. So that's so many cards. So that loss compared, the disparity between drawing a scout is just so big if you're not discarding. So as game is right now, I didn't like this. I thought it was just way too overpowered. I thought it was the best card when it came into with the like lose one, like being able to discard. That was just so too overpowered. So it's like, is that possible that you do that?
You're kind of saying that like the scout's really the only way. It's
your only catch-up mechanic.
Back,
yeah, it's the only way to draw cards really other than your original card, and to speed it up a little faster. Gotcha. So compared to all the other mechanics, it was just too much to me. If you want to keep it slower,
which is why I let him go first, because compared to all the other mechanics, it is the most powerful, and that's why I'd like to see more of that, just rapid, low consequence card draw that can, get us all to, if each of us were drawing 3 cards in a turn, or drawing back to 5, or if there were 7 scouts or 8 scouts in the game, so Wolf was stuck on that bottom 4 for an entire game. If there had been a scout in the deck instead of a card that you potentially might not have needed, there's 3 more cards you get to see, which zips you out of your hole and keeps the game like trucking along. Very exciting, not spending a whole bunch of time with 2 people with uncompleted first rows and 2 people with barely completed top rows. I would take out a
only
destroyer
if those
and put in a scout.
people are the ones that draw the scout, though.
Right.
Well,
to be fair.
Yeah, the same person could just
and
that's where I'll go to like the randomness. Like I'm not super into the randomness. I mean, I had kind of a flat experience with the game. I just didn't see a lot of those special cards. I saw a couple blocks and then a defender at the end, but for the most part, I didn't really get to see a lot of those special cards that I got to see everyone else using, destroying and doing all this stuff, and I'm getting all these lose ones. So my experience was more like I didn't get to play very much. I got blocked a lot during the first game, and then second game, I just had really bad luck. And the fact that I was having bad luck, it felt bad that I was only drawing 1 card a turn. My options were just not very much. I had to depend on trading. I did trade a lot. I like that mechanic. I will say that was good. But when you're only able to put 1 per turn, you have to do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8. You potentially can get your cards destroyed, which is basically 4 turns. It just seems hard if you're behind.
Yeah.
It seems like the gap, especially first game, it seemed like the gap between Wolf and the rest of us was just so much because we had already gotten past the barrier.
Right.
We broke the glass ceiling.
Your first road in, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
So, if you're behind, you're just... chances to catch up are drawing a scout or just hoping that no one's going to mess with you. But it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that stuff comes down to luck. And with this type of game, that's just one of the components. So I don't necessarily see that as a downside for the game overall. Obviously, if you watch the gameplay, you can see that I got kind of heated.
Yeah, we did too, and it was emotionally good. But I had a good experience with that.
I enjoyed the game overall. I think it was fun. I generally like these types of games. Like Rummikub is the one that immediately came to mind when playing this, especially with these little these little things, which I think are
those
great.
are awesome.
Like the tiles.
Yeah.
And the holders and stuff.
I hope they stay tiles.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that I would really love to see changed is the design of the tiles. So, again, if you watch the gameplay, you can see us getting very confused about which ones match and which ones don't, and having
Oh, I
kind
can
of
trade with you. I can't.
yeah, like, oh, I think I can. Oh no, I can't. Or like, oh no, I can't. But actually, I could have. Whoops.
We all felt stupid a lot.
Yeah.
And it
sometimes.
doesn't feel like it should be that hard, but for some reason it really is, especially when you're playing across the table from each other. So I think we talked about changing the tiles to like a road, or an actual road if you're going to be calling these roads, and taking away the the playing card aspect, because that doesn't really necessarily fit with the game
Yeah,
when you're
thematically, like what does a
There
king or
is
queen
a-
have to do with a road unless you're
Yeah, there is
Yeah.
a
the King's
genre
Road, but
out
are they
there.
there? Yeah.
Yeah, there is a genre. If you're looking at like if it's important to you to kind of like market this and get it out there as like a commercial game, there is a genre of like travel games out there that this could fit into potentially of telling a story of a trip and theming like Laurel was saying, like a road might help you get into that market and get some of that audience too.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I really enjoyed the game.
Yeah,
And, like
it was a lot of fun.
I would play it again. I would play this at home with my family. Like I would bring this to play with my family, because we have played other games like that, like Rummy Cube, etc. So
Yeah, it does seem like a good family game for that. One other thing that I thought of while we were going around the horn here was, in the letter that you sent with us, you said that you'd done a lot of the 2-player stuff and not as much of the 4-player stuff. And one thing I know from kind of playing 4-player games like this with that kind of like gotcha mechanic is there becomes politics, and there becomes hurt feelings that don't exist in 2-player games, because people don't get upset if I draw a destroyer tile and I only have one opponent.
you can only play
Right.
against that
It
one
basically
opponent.
means just flip this up and show it and destroy that person. Like, and there's no hard feelings about it. I just got the tile that screwed everybody up. So depending on how you feel about that in your game, if you want that kind of politicking, because there's definitely some things like, yeah, I know I could have played that on someone else, but
This is why you can't play.
you could possibly tweak how the destroyer works for 4-player games, where you play it and it just destroys 1 from everybody else's board, as opposed to 4 from one person's board. It
Or like you
takes
could
that,
choose how many to destroy from.
right, or pick and choose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if one person's way ahead, maybe all 4 of them use on that, or destroy 4 tiles of your choice. Something like that, if you wanted to.
I mean, that's an interesting idea to me.
So just a thought. Like there's definitely, when you enter when it goes from a 2-player game, from a heads up game to a multiplayer game, those politics and those like hurt feelings and like who you're gonna play this card against come into play, and it's just a thing that happens. And if you like it, and if you don't, you can design around it a little bit. But I think overall, we had fun with your game. There were some things that were confusing and maybe things that didn't feel so good if we got unlucky. But, I mean, we're all having fun and shouting at each other and laughing and having a good old time at the end of the day. So thanks so much for sending us your game, and keep up the good work.